BJP, Anna Hazare, Arvind Kejriwal, and a concern shared by people across the country is that the government hasn't really made the CBI independent in its entirety. Until the time the CBI is truly independent, the Lokpal has no meaning. And two instances are being cited, two recommendations made by the Standing Committee. One about a surety of tenure, and secondly, ensuring that senior CBI officials don't get post-retirement jobs by the government. Both those recommendations haven't been accepted. Why is the government scared of making the CBI independent?
Because governments do not function on the basis of one view expressed here or there. Governments function on the basis of the experiences of a lifetime and based upon the practical necessities of administration. The independence of the CBI in matters involving investigations into corruption cases in high places is best ensured through the appointment mechanism of the CBI director. For the first time, any government has decided to give a go-by to its privilege of appointment of a CBI director. It is the UPA government. What have we done? We have entrusted the task of appointment of a CBI director to a committee comprising of the Chief Justice of India, the Leader of the Opposition, and the Prime Minister. Can there be a greater assurance of independence of CBI?
Why not have a fixed tenure?
Your second charge, let me just tell you about the second charge. Your second charge is about post-retirement appointments.
Yes.
The judges of the Supreme Court also get post-retirement benefits. But does that mean that they are not independent in what they do? These are flawed assumptions. Ultimate guarantee of integrity and probity in the discharge of one's duties is the quality of the person you pick up. And in order to ensure that the best people available with the requisite experience are picked up for performing this exceptionally important function, this committee has received statutory sanction for the first time. I think the UPA government has vindicated its promise to the people of India.
One of the promises, sir, was that once an investigation is initiated by an officer in the CBI, he should then not be transferred. Now, very conveniently, the government has kept for itself the right to transfer an officer when a probe is on, and BJP levels the charge. And it's a thing that's been seen by several people in the past as well, that when the probe is on and at a crucial juncture, that officer is conveniently transferred to benefit the government.
But are you not aware of the clause that we are incorporating, that the superintendence and direction of investigation would be under the Lokpal? But as far as the transfer of officers is concerned, it is well accepted principle of administration, both in corporates and in the government domain, that transfers and postings of officers is within always the domain of the appointing authority. So once the CBI...
But is continuity not important?
No, the continuity is normally there. But for reasons to be recorded, in exceptional circumstances, if a transfer is considered to be in public interest, that transfer can always be made. But who will decide it? The CBI director. Who is the CBI director? Someone of impeccable integrity appointed by a committee comprising of the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice and the
No, but see what happened in the case of IAS officer Khemka. The moment he began probing, and he's probed throughout results which the government was uncomfortable with, he was posted out and immediately a pliant officer brought in, and that probe sent into cold storage.
See, this is the problem in a debate on a television. You compare apple and oranges. They are uncomparable. First of all, I dispute the charge that Khemka was transferred out for being inconvenient at all. The state of Haryana has on a number of occasions given an explanation. I don't think this is a debate on that.
No, but there's a parallel.
No, there is no parallel. This parallel is a completely flawed parallel. CBI's autonomy is sought to be ensured by an act of parliament for the institution of the Lokpal has been created for the first time, and the investigation even by the CBI of cases referred by the Lokpal to the CBI is being monitored by the Lokpal itself. Therefore, and who is appointing the Lokpal? 5 most preeminent people in the country. Who is appointing the CBI director? The 3 most important people in the country. So what else is required?
Why not have a fixed tenure, sir? Why give to ministers and officials in the CBI the right, according to their whim and fancy, to transfer officers who are engaged in a probe?
Can you ever, in your own organization, can you ever give fixed tenure to everyone who works with you? Can you not anticipate a situation where for some reasons, let's say concerning the the personal situation of the officer himself, or for some other reason. Let's
No,
say,
but there can be caveats built in. Those sorts of caveats can be built in. But why not say, for 2 years, you do your job without the fear of being booted out just because you found something which was uncomfortable?
And what happens if you give that kind of a security of tenure? A person becomes corrupt because of that security? I mean, look, you can argue anything. If I am assuring you a fixed tenure of 2 years regardless, what is there to prevent you from becoming corrupt? So let's not argue on these nitty-gritties. The lessons learned in administration is a function of decades, in fact even more. The fact remains that the premier investigative agency of the Government of India is now subject to multifarious disciplining mechanisms. And I think the foremost mechanism is in the appointment process of the CBI director itself. That, in my view, both as a citizen and as a lawyer, is a very firm guarantee.
The opposition is raising the charge
happening.
that once the standing committee, which is a multi-party body, in its wisdom has come up with some recommendations, why should the union cabinet be tinkering with those recommendations, Minister?
The standing committee's recommendations are recommendations. They are very important recommendations. They are entitled to great persuasive value. But in the scheme of a parliamentary processes, in the scheme of governance, in the scheme of legislative processes, they are recommendations. Government is entitled, in the cabinet form of government, to take a view on those recommendations, which is what is being done. Most of the recommendations are accepted. Somewhere, for reasons to be recorded, government chooses to differ, cabinet takes a view. The matter again goes back to Parliament, and Parliament then, in its collective wisdom, either endorses the standing committee's recommendations and throws out the government's amendments, or goes along with the...
No, but the bill is in the Rajya Sabha. The Congress is in a minority in the Rajya Sabha.
So we will
the BJP
see.
is already opposing this.
So we will see.
How do you hope to get the Lokpal Bill through, Minister?
Well, if the opposition is bent upon defeating a Lokpal Bill, which is so constructive in its orientation, so constructive and so dynamic in its conceptualization, then the people of India will pass a judgment on those who are going to defeat this bill. We can only do our
best. This is showmanship by the government. If
No,
you'd accepted all the recommendations of the standing committee, then the bill would have gotten through.
To get a legislative measure passed, you have to be dictated to.
No, but you're not being dictated to.
Of course.
There are so many members from the Congress party who were there on that standing committee. Satyaraj Chaturvedi, Shantaram Naik, Shadilal Batra, all of them from the Congress party, and 3 members from the BJP.
Rahul, I expected better from you.
No, but this is an important question, sir.
Ray says, but let me answer.
Yes.
It's a strange logic, in fact pervert logic, if you'll permit me to say that if I choose to disagree for good reasons with a particular recommendation, I am responsible for stalling the bill. I say, as the government, I have a right to take a call. I take a call and I state the reasons why I am taking that call. The entire House debates. Standing committee is a creature of the entire House, right? The entire House debates. And if in wisdom it chooses one way or the other, so it does. The fact of the matter is, you can't accuse a government for not going through with the legislative process merely because it has a view. Otherwise, the government can tomorrow be accused of abdication of its duty to apply its mind. Somebody may say, standing committee made this recommendation, you are the people who are in government, you had the benefit in hindsight of the experience of how governments run, or you had good reasons.
In Parliament. The BJP will oppose it. We will see the same sort of uproarious scenes that we saw when the bill was passed in the Lok Sabha, and then what happened in the Rajya Sabha. It will get repeated, sir.
At the end of the day, public opinion outside of Parliament is what drives democracy. We, the representatives of the people, are expected to respond to the sensitivities of the people. We believe that we are going to come up with a good bill, a constructive bill, a proactive bill, a bill that would define the course of India's politics for many years and would ensure good governance. That's the remit of the bill.
Has raised the question that the standing committee laid out several suggestions for strengthening the CBI, for ensuring that it can perform its duties more effectively. He says the government has conveniently ignored most of those suggestions, all of those suggestions.
I can understand the compulsions of the leader of the opposition, Rajya Sabha. He has to pick holes where there are no holes to be picked. That is his remit. Our job is to do what we consider is good and right by our conscience, what is good for the country, what is doable, what is practical, what is consistent with the established structures of government, and we are going to do what we think is right.
On the 27th of August, there was a sense of the House resolution which was mooted and passed. There were 3 things which were said about the Lokpal Bill: that the House agrees in principle on the following issues: a citizens' charter, lower bureaucracy under the Lokpal through appropriate mechanism, and the establishment of the Lokayukt in the states. All of this had to happen under the purview of the Lokpal. Now, the larger question which Arvind Kejriwal is asking, Minister, is that the government has betrayed the people and the promise it made on the floor of the House on all these three aspects. You've segregated them, broken it down so that it all doesn't happen under the purview of the Lokpal, which was your original promise.
It is the same standing committee whose membership you just recounted, which has very eminent people of the opposition on it, who in their wisdom, based upon the objection taken by the leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, that you can't under one law establish the Lok Ayugs, they have decided to replace Part 3 and introduce Section 63, which mandates the states to bring in their own legislation to establish Lok Ayugs in states. So how have we diluted the promise of good governance? No, it is only a procedural mechanism because the Constitution required so. So therefore, the same committee has recommended that state governments within 365 days from the date of the coming into force of the Act must have a legislation in the states.
But what about lower bureaucracy? Because this is the person
A, B, C,
who the common
groups.
man interacts with.
Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D central employees are all within the purview. Do you know the numbers? Do you know the kind of number of people that are now within the remit of the Lokpal? The Lokpal would be the most powerful institution in the country. So it was considered, after huge deliberations, after a lot of stock taking and consistent with the demands of administration, it was considered that it is more than enough. You will see that in the Rajya Sabha, this would be the least bone of contention. There's a broad political consensus that it is good enough if you put officers belonging to A, B, C, D cadre of the central government under the Lokpal.
But the concern is that the person across the counter who the Aam Aadmi interacts with most often, the Aam Aadmi can't complain to the Lokpal about his corruption.
The proof of the pudding is in its eating. You will see the difference. When A, B, C, D group of officers come, and they are very, very mid-level group of officers also, that is where the file stops. It is not the man who handles the file at the counter alone. It is the man to whom he sends the file who decides the case of an electricity connection or a telephone connection. And those people, by and large, who ultimately decide are within the remit.
Minister, how soon do you see the establishment of the Lokpal? And for people watching, they want to know, this debate has been going on for so long. How soon will we see the results of the creation of a Lokpal?
Well, I'm an optimist. We are going to present it to Parliament with the full hope that it will be passed, and once it is passed, it will be established. We are bringing the bill in the budget session of Parliament. I hope the Parliament in its wisdom will pass the
But what is your floor strategy? You don't have the numbers in the Rajya Sabha.
We are not going to discuss floor strategy.
Because you did manage to pass your original version of the Lokpal Bill through in the Lok Sabha. It's in the Rajya Sabha that the matter got stuck, which is when we were hoping that there would be a cross-party unity on the recommendations. Because you didn't accept the recommendations of the standing committee, we're back to square one, sir.
No, we're not back to square one. You will see, we'll try our best to forge a political consensus, and we can only hope that the best outcome will come.
So basically,
I
at
can't
some
preempt a
level,
parliamentary process.
this is being done to quell the anger of the people, because people are demanding action. You realize fully well that the bill might not go through. It will be stalled once again by the BJP and the others. This is just being enacted to ensure that the people feel that the government has done something.
You've tried very hard to be cynical, and you've succeeded to a point, but I think you're just putting your views across to the people without
I'm
really...
asking a question.
Well, you're
it's
asking...
a fair concern.
No, you're making a statement. You've reached a conclusion. I think your conclusion is so utterly flawed that even you in your heart know we can only do our best. We are doing our best. We are victims of a fractured polity in government. We will try to secure the broadest possible consensus. We believe in the Lokpal. We are the ones who have taken the initiatives in bringing forth the bill. Mrs. Gandhi wrote to Anna Hazare that we are going to come up with the bill. We can only try to do our best.
But if you'd accepted all the recommendations, the bill would have sailed through.
And not applied our mind.
No, but the standing committee has applied its mind, sir.
But the government also has to apply its mind. The legislature, the executive, the judiciary are all parts of the organs of the state. Please understand, the nation has to move forward in a harmonious kind of a way. Please don't try and invent a disconnect where there is none. Government is responsible to Parliament. We are going to debate all the provisions in the two houses of Parliament, and ultimately it will have to be left to the wisdom of the elected representatives of the people to endorse a particular legislative measure.
The other issue which is, bothering our viewers is the government's response to the Justice Verma recommendations. Now, I'd like to know from you, and Justice Verma said this in an interview which he gave, where he said that we've worked so hard to put these recommendations together in 29 days. He would like to see the government push those recommendations through, implement them in 29 days. Can you commit to our viewers, sir, that the government will indeed implement the Verma Committee recommendations in 29 days?
The government at all levels is already working on the report of the Justice Verma Committee. I can assure you that very, very soon you will see a decision of the Cabinet, and we are going to take the matter forward where there is agreement on the recommendations, and we will try and ensure that the country gets a credible and an effective law to prevent crimes against women and other heinous crimes which we have recently witnessed, which have been marked by such depravity that it has shocked the conscience of the country.
Justice Verma has asked for an ordinance to be brought. He says, if the government is serious, let them move an ordinance, let them push that through.
Well, all options are open because Parliament is going to be called very, very soon. The option of the ordinance also is available. The report is being considered. The views are being collated. Whatever the Cabinet decides, the question of how we implement it is a matter on which a decision will be taken.
When will the Cabinet meet? Why is there no visible sense of urgency?
There is visible sense of urgency because you don't see it doesn't mean there is no visible sense of urgency.
Explain to our viewers, what is the urgency?
Well, we have all been working on it. Yesterday, day before yesterday, the Home Secretary, the Law Secretaries were all working only on Justice Verma Committee recommendations and also working along with the Standing Committee.
We've heard a lot of cynicism from some of the officials who are speaking. They're saying that the Justice Verma Committee overshot its remit. They shouldn't have gone into some of the areas that they've gone. Several of the recommendations are not implementable. Essentially, attempts are being made to find flaws with what Justice Verma and his other committee members have come up with.
The proof of the pudding is in its eating. If an officer or an MP or a minister were to say that in his opinion a particular finding or conclusion is beyond the remit of the Justice Verma Committee, does that account for cynicism? Am I not entitled to say that this particular observation is already in the law? Am I not entitled to show that this is fine, we accept it, but it is already in the law? Can't we not say that this particular thing is way beyond what he was asked to do and it is unimplementable? What is the job of a bureaucrat? What is the job of a minister? The job of a bureaucrat, the job of a minister, the job of the entire civil service and the job of the government is to ensure that what is to be done is certainly done, purposively, vigorously, and what cannot be done, say so for the reasons. Then the Cabinet can take whatever view it wants to take. But finding fault with the person to express his opinion on a particular thing is not cynicism.
Why did the government not cooperate fully? None of the senior ministers went to meet Justice Verma.
Was anybody called? This is a strange argument. The Congress party gave its views. The Congress party's views were very elaborate. No minister has ever denied himself the opportunity of meeting Justice Verma or any team members if they were called upon. I don't know against whom the charge is being made. Their own case is that they have received all the suggestions, 80,000 emails, political parties
But the senior officials never came. The secretary level officers sent some junior officers. It indicates that the government was never backing the initiative fully. It was done just to appease the anger.
The Prime Minister has written to Justice Verma applauding him for his work. Mrs. Gandhi called up to tell him that, we are sending up the recommendations to you, the Congress party, the ruling party gave its recommendations. What kind of seriousness do you want? Just because a particular officer went and A, B, C person did not go does not mean that there is lack of concern.
No, but look at the
let me tell you on record. On the brutality and the depravity of the colossal tragedy that occurred in Delhi, there is no two views in the country. The government remained totally committed to ensuring, within the capacity that it has within its means, that such a thing never happens. Whether it involves changes in the law, we will do so. Whether it involves more effective policing, we will do so. Whether it involves sensitizing of the people, we will do so. Justice Verma has recommended a number of things. Some are policy matters on a much larger canvas. We appreciate all of that. We will try and factor in how best we can implement these decisions. I want to assure you, without any ambiguity, that we are dead serious to move with utmost expedition
in the matter of translating into concrete action those recommendations of Justice Verma, which are either considered necessary and are not there in the law, and on which there is general agreement, and you can be certain that there is no partisan perspective.
Why don't you commit to a timeline? Use this opportunity to give us a timeline on when these recommendations will be implemented.
I can only tell you that from my department, the top priority is to give the final touches to what we have to say on the Burma Committee recommendations. I cannot tell you how soon the Parliament will pass. That it will be wrong for me to say.
No, so commit to when your ministry will send this to the Ministry of Home.
No, for all you know, we may already have sent it. I'm just saying we are working round the clock. It's a work in progress. It's going on.
No, but look also at something as basic, sir, as providing just administrative help to Justice Verma. The poor man had to say that the government provided no administrative help, no secretarial help, no one to help him type. He was sitting there with his two fingers typing this massive report.
No. Justice Verma, I don't think he was typing himself, but if he was, we are very grateful.
He made this
I don't know.
I
don't want to join issue with anyone, but the administrative ministry concerned is the Home Ministry. What staff they had to give, or they
didn't give any staff, sir.
I'm not here to. I'm not.
No, but you're also a representative of the government.
No, I may be a representative of the government, but I don't know the truth. So don't ask me on the television to react to what you are saying. I don't know the truth.
No, but Justice Verma said this several days ago.
Maybe he has said it, but then let somebody else respond. Those who want to.
So it's not your responsibility, Mr. Shinde must.
No, I am not. That is true on the administrative side. It is the Home Ministry's remit. But I'm not going to respond to your statement because I don't know whether a staff was provided or whether help was sought and not given. I don't know. So please be fair to me. Don't ask me questions which I don't know of.
This budget session is probably the best opportunity for the Women's Reservation Bill to go through. I want to know from you, Minister, will the government push the Women's Reservation Bill through on priority? We've seen it being brought up and each time scuttled for some reason or the other.
We don't scuttle it. We don't scuttle it, we bring it. And we have said it in our Jaipur declaration, reiterated it again. Women's reservation is a top priority of the Congress government.
No, but that's only tokenism. You don't push it through.
This is what you said is tokenism.
Sir, because when the government has to push something through, take the SC/ST promotion quota bill, the government had to push it through because it was politically expedient to do so. There were vote banks at play. The government found the will to do it.
You think if we succeed in pushing ahead with the women's reservation bills, the women of India won't be happy with us? They won't be.
The men of India won't be happy. No, the netas won't be happy. They are worried about their re-election.
The fact of the matter is that we are handicapped by the fact that we do not enjoy absolute majority. We've got to have a broad political consensus to push through important legislation. I can assure you that we remain totally committed to it. We will do our best to have it
Will it be brought up in the budget session or not?
Hopefully.
Ambivalence.
But Parliament, ask the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, don't ask the Law Minister. You are asking the wrong man the wrong question. On my department, I am prepared to commit. It is the Parliamentary Affairs Minister's remit. But I am here to tell you as a senior functionary of the government and of the party that we remain totally and irrevocably committed to pursuing this agenda. To what extent we will succeed, I don't know. We want to bring it. If we could, we'll bring it tomorrow. And I think this is one of our priorities. And I'm sure the Parliamentary Affairs Minister would be happy to confirm this.
Well, good intentions must be backed by prompt action.
Yes.
And most importantly, they've had enough discussions on the Lokpal Bill. They now want to see an active, functioning Lokpal, rooting out corruption in government. If that happens, the UPA too would have done this country a great service. If it doesn't, then everyone who's been a naysayer would be proved right. Dr. Ashwani Kumar, for joining us.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Let me also tell you that you should also be a bit more constructive. We've had a lot of cynicism on the television. I think criticize us if you must, but give us the benefit where it is.
The day the first government officer arrested by the Lokpal after a CBI probe is convicted by a court and sent to jail is the day the level of cynicism, not just mine, but across the country would come down, Minister.
Conviction by itself is not the answer. The answer is the will and the answer is the sincerity. Hard cases make bad law, is a trite saying in law. Don't measure the efficacy of the law only by whether you can hang somebody by the lamppost.
Good intentions don't bring deterrence, sir.